Welcome to another Thursday night Bible study, brought to you as a ministry of SIGBC.
So, we are talking about self-control and self-discipline being the fruit of the Spirit, because we are supposed to walk in the Spirit and we are supposed to bear fruit for Christ. And so, what we have been looking at 3 weeks ago anyway was that the rule of the world, they lack any value in actually restraining sensual indulgences. So there are ascetics, there are hedonists, there are those who punish themselves and practice discipline, self-discipline, in a way that is not pleasing to God. But even though the rules of the world lack any value in actually restraining sensual indulgences, the Bible says that there are going to be terrible days in the last days, and the problem is going to be that there are people who are going to be acting out of self-love. And we looked at about 9 of these already, the result of those who act out of self-love rather than self-control or self-discipline. We talked about the fact that Paul says in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to be looking at verse 3 particularly today, but he talks about the fact that there are those who act out of their self-love by being lovers of money, boastful, proud. And the difference between boastful and proud is, in the Greek, empty pretenders are boastful, and showing oneself above others is proud. And then the fourth was abusive. The Greek word was blasphemos. That is contentious or speaking evil of others or even slanderous. And then the fifth was disobedient to parents, unpersuadable or non-compliant in the family. And number 6 was ungrateful. Akaristos means thankless, ungracious, or unthankful. And number 7 was unholy, anosios. That is impious, that is actually wicked, or not choosing to walk in holiness. And then in verse 3, we saw that the idea continued concerning those who act out their self-love by being without love. That is, without natural affection. Now, there are several Greek words that are translated love in the English language. Agape is the main word that we know in the Bible. It's the main one that is used in the Bible. It's a self-sacrificial giving kind of love. And then phileo is a brotherly, affectionate kind of love. And then there's storge, and the word that is used here without love, without natural affection, is storgos. And it can be translated as unsociable or unloving. In other words, Christians are supposed to be given to hospitality. The Filipinos are amazing at hospitality. They know better than any other country that I know of, that I've ever visited, how to be hospitable. Almost to a fault, they are hospitable and generous. And so this is kind of the opposite of that. The without love, astorgos, means unloving or unsociable. And then the 9th was unforgiving. Now, the word unforgiving is an interesting word. It means actually without a truce or a truce breaker. Aspondos is the Greek word. And it refers to one that cannot be persuaded to enter a covenant. In other words, someone who does not want to enter into a relationship with someone else once again, who refuses to agree to restore the relationship. That is unforgiving. And those who act out of self-love are always going to be unforgiving. today, a lot of people seem to justify an unforgiving spirit by saying they're protecting themselves from people who are poisonous to them. And while there is some wisdom in protecting yourself from those who seek to do you harm, an unwillingness to forgive is not biblical, because it shows a lack of self-discipline, a lack of self-control in the heart, in matters of the heart, and it is a reflection of self-love. And then number 10 was slanderous. And the Greek word for slanderous is diabolos, which actually is another word for the devil, Satan. And so acting like Satan, who is the false accuser of the brother, and so someone who is slanderous, it's where we get the word diabolos, is where we get the word in English diabolical, or extremely wicked. But in the Greek, it refers to a false accuser, or someone who is on the side of the devil, or one who is talking evil about another. In other words, a slanderer. So diabolos, don't be a diabolos. And then we get to today's caution, which is people who act out of their self-love do so by being without self-control. And the Greek word is akretes. Akretes actually can mean incontinent, unable to control your bladder. But it also, technically it refers to being powerless in the face of temptation. So without self-control. So akretes has to do with one who faces temptation and always yields to temptation simply because they are powerless to resist it, because they are without self-control. And then finally, number 12, he says, those who act out of their self-love are brutal. The Greek word is fierce, or one who is untamed. And so, brutal means actually not controlling your emotions and then acting out, lashing out physically or verbally against someone who has offended you. Paul said to the Colossians in Colossians chapter 4, verse 6, "Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone." James said concerning the things that we say and the way that we say them, we all stumble in many ways. This is James 3, 2-5. Anyone who is never at fault in what they say is perfect, able to keep their whole body in check. In other words, they are completely self-controlled. He says when we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Or take ships as an example. Although they are so large and driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. So don't be brutal in what you say. Don't be brutal in what you do. Make sure you act not out of self-love, but in self-control, in self-discipline, so that we can love God and love others as He asks us to.
Thank you for listening. You can also join us in person or live on Facebook every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Japan time. This has been a ministry of Sakahogi International Grace Baptist Church.